Welcome back to the deep dive. It is Friday, February 27th, 2026. And today I want to start with a little mental exercise for you listening.
Oh, I like these.
Yeah, it's a quick one. Just close your eyes for a second and picture the word Hyundai. What comes to mind? Be totally honest.
Um, if I'm being honest, I'd probably picture a Tucson in a suburban driveway, or maybe that rental car I had in Florida last year. Reliable, sensible, gets you from point A to point B without any drama.
Exactly. That is the safe answer. That's the image most of us have stuck in our heads. But we have spent the last 48 hours combing through a stack of documents that, frankly, it feels like we've been reading the screenplay for a sci-fi movie set in the year 2050.
It really does, because the company we are analyzing today isn't just a car maker anymore.
Not even close. It turns out there is a full-blown technology giant hiding in plain sight. We are talking about cars that can literally walk on legs like a robot dog.
Mhm.
We're talking about taxis with absolutely no one in the driver's seat launching commercially this year.
And a vehicle that solves the biggest anxiety in the EV world with a 600-mile range. It really is a metamorphosis.
It's massive. And we aren't just looking at quarterly earnings today. We're looking at a fundamental shift in what the word mobility even means.
Right. And to do that properly, we need to look at the evidence, the sources.
We have a serious stack of sources today. I know you love it when we show our work and give a proper overview. So let's break down exactly what we are analyzing to build this deep dive. And I want to pull a few quotes right out of the gate so you know exactly what we're dealing with.
Let's do it. We've got four main pillars holding up today's deep dive. First, we have a press release from Motional. That's Hyundai's autonomous driving joint venture, specifically regarding their operations in Las Vegas.
Right. And second, we have the full, very dense transcripts from the 2025 CEO Investor Day. This lays out their strategy all the way through 2030. That's where they talk about what they call the Hyundai way.
That's the heavy hitter. That's where the big numbers are.
It is. Third, we have something really interesting, a candid interview with Francesco Calcara, the CEO of Hyundai Italy. He drops some serious knowledge about how they are using AI, not just in the cars, but to sell the cars. There's a quote from him here that I loved. He said, AI can really help a lot, change many paradigms.
And finally, we've got the ecosystem breakdowns involving their partnerships with Waymo and Boston Dynamics.
Yeah, so if you look at all these disparate pieces of paper, a robot dog here, a flying taxi there, an investor spreadsheet here, what is the overarching mission?
The mission is their transition from a quote-unquote car manufacturer to a smart mobility solution provider.
Which sounds like corporate buzzword bingo until you actually see what they're building. So let's jump into the deep end. Section 1, the robotaxi. Because for a long time, this felt like vaporware. I mean, we've been promised driverless cars next year for about 10 years now.
It has been the boy who cried wolf of the tech industry. For sure. But according to the Motional press release we analyzed, the wolf is finally at the door. They are confirming the commercialization of a fully driverless Level 4 robotaxi service in Las Vegas by the end of this year, 2026.
End of this year. And just to be super clear for everyone listening, level 4 means no driver, right?
Precisely.
Like I get in the back and the front seat is totally empty.
Empty. The car handles all aspects of driving in that specific geofenced area. You could fall asleep in the back seat.
It's actually happening.
Oh.
Now, the vehicle itself is the Ion IQ5, which we know. We've seen it on the roads. But I want to dig into the tech because the sources describe a shift in how the car thinks. They talk about end-to-end AI motion planning.
E2E.
This is the aha moment. If you look at the last decade of self-driving development, it's mostly been a modular approach.
Okay, let's unpack that for a second. What does modular look like? Think of it like a flowchart. You have a perception module that says, that is a stop sign. Then it passes that info to a decision module that says, if stop sign, then stop. Then a control module hits the brakes.
So it's very step by step.
Right, it's like stitching together separate photos to make a movie. It works, but it's rigid. It really struggles with the messiness of the real world.
And the sources say Motional is moving away from that stitched-together approach.
They are. They describe their new system not as separate stitches, but as a woven tapestry.
I loved that analogy in the source text. I actually wrote down the exact quote because it really paints the picture. It said, think of an ongoing, continuous woven tapestry depicting information necessary for the autonomous driving system, rather than separate scenes sewn together.
It's a profound shift in logic. It means the AI learns holistic driving behaviors. It's fluid. It adapts to the nuance of the road, like how a human knows that sometimes you have to inch forward at a stop sign to see past a parked delivery truck.
Right, a rule-based system just freezes there.
Exactly. It struggles, and end-to-end AI just gets it. It understands context.
But here is my concern, and I think your concern listening to this too. When you say the AI is learning and fluid, that sounds a little, I don't know, unpredictable. Does the source actually address the safety of this?
Explicitly, Laura Major, the CEO of Motional, is quoted heavily here. She emphasizes that despite this new tapestry tech, it is strictly a safety-first approach.
Okay.
She says, and I quote, "Motional does not place safety behind technological progress. They validate these behaviors rigorously before they ever hit the Vegas Strip."
Speaking of hitting the streets, here's where the plot really twists. You'd think Hyundai would be hoarding this tech right, trying to crush Google and Tesla.
You would think that's the old legacy car company playbook. Kill the competition.
But the sources reveal a strategic curveball. Hyundai is partnering with Waymo. They are supplying IO and IQ5s to Waymo for their autonomous fleet. This blew my mind. Isn't Waymo the direct competition?
It's a classic case of what we call co-opetition. Look, the robotaxi market has two layers. There's the service layer, which is the app you use to hail the ride. And there's the hardware layer, the physical car itself.
Okay.
Waymo is incredible at the software and the service. But building cars at scale is hard. Really hard. Hyundai is positioning itself as the hardware backbone for the entire industry.
I see.
They're essentially saying, sure, we have our own service with Motional, but we will also sell the shovels to the other miners.
That is such a power move. It totally hedges their bets. If Motional wins, they win. If Waymo wins, they still sell thousands of cars.
Exactly. It's just smart business.
Okay, so that's the robot side. That's Vegas. But let's talk about what regular people, the people listening to this deep dive who might need to buy a car in 2030. What will they be driving? We've got the 2025 CEO Investor Day transcript here. What's the roadmap?
The numbers are ambitious. They are targeting 5.5 million global vehicle sales by 2030. That is a massive volume.
But the interesting part is how they plan to get there. Because the narrative for the last few years has been EV or bust. Everyone is going fully electric. But reading these transcripts, am I reading this right? Hyundai seems to be pivoting.
It's not so much a pivot away from EVs, but a realization that the adoption line isn't a straight upward curve. It's what they're calling a smart game.
A smart game.
Yeah, they recognize that while the destination is electric, the journey is bumpy. The charging infrastructure just isn't there yet in a lot of places. So they are expanding their hybrid lineup massively to over 18 hybrid models by 2030.
But there is one piece of tech in the source that really stood out to me, the StarTech, the ERVV.
Yes, the extended range electric vehicle, launching in 2027.
Now, for the non-gearheads listening, we know what a hybrid is. We know what an EV is. What makes an EREV different?
I think this might be the killer app for the next decade. In a normal hybrid, the gas engine is physically connected to the wheels. It helps drive the car forward. In an EREV, the car is driven 100% by electric motors. So you get that instant torque, that smooth, silent acceleration of a pure EV.
So it drives exactly like a Tesla.
Exactly. But under the hood, there's a small combustion engine. But here's the kicker. That engine is not connected to the wheels. It has one job. It acts solely as a generator to charge the battery while you drive.
So the engine's just a portable power plant.
Correct. And because the engine can run at its most efficient RPM constantly, since it's not revving up and down to drive the wheels, it is incredibly efficient.
And the range?
The sources claim a range of over 600 miles. That is 960 kilometers.
600 miles. That's Los Angeles to Salt Lake City on one tank or charge, whatever we call it now.
It completely solves the #1 problem with EVs, which is range anxiety. You get the EV performance, but you can fill up at a gas station in 5 minutes if you're in the middle of nowhere.
That feels like the bridge we've been waiting for. It's so pragmatic.
It is. And looking at the rest of the new metal on the roadmap, they aren't slowing down on variety. The transcript mentions a mid-sized pickup truck coming for North America, which is a huge market segment they really need to capture.
And for our European listeners, the IO and IQ3.
Yes, targeting the European mass market.
Yeah.
Smaller, much more affordable.
And then there's the fun stuff, the IO and IQ6N.
Oh yeah, the high-performance division.
The source used a phrase I loved for this one. They said it has signature and sensory engagement.
Which is fantastic corporate speak. It's going to be really fun to drive.
Right. But it's interesting because EVs are usually described as sterile, fast, but kind of boring.
Yeah.
Hyundai seems obsessed with making them feel visceral.
They want to simulate the gear shifts, the sound, the vibration. They want to keep the soul of driving alive even when the gas engine is gone.
I love that. But, okay, we've covered cars, we've covered robotaxis. Now I want to get to the part that legitimately sounds like it was written by a sci-fi novelist. Section 3. the sci-fi ecosystem.
This is where that mobility solution provider label actually starts to make literal sense.
Yeah, because in the YouTube transcript in the Investor Day notes, they talk about Supernal and Boston Dynamics, and suddenly we aren't on the road anymore.
No, we are in the air. Supernal is their advanced air mobility unit. They are developing the SA-2 vehicle.
And this isn't a helicopter.
Not really. It's an eVTOL, an electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicle. It's much quieter, it's cleaner. And they are aiming for routine commuter flights by 2028.
Routine commuter flights. Like, honey, I'm flying to the office.
Ideally, yes. The vision is vertiports integrated into major cities. You take a robotaxi to the vertiport, fly over the traffic jam, and land near your office.
It sounds utopian. But if flying isn't your speed, the sources also discuss the elevate concept. This comes from the robotics side with Boston Dynamics. It's a car with legs.
This is the one that looks like a walker from a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, I saw the concept art in the notes. It's wild. But think about the application. The source explicitly mentions disaster zones. Imagine an earthquake happens. There's rubble everywhere. A normal ambulance can't get there.
But a car with robotic legs can literally climb over the debris.
Exactly. Or even just climbing stairs to pick up a passenger in a wheelchair right at their front door. It redefines what all-terrain means. It's not just four-wheel drive, it's walking.
And this all ties into their smart city vision, right? The sources describe this layered city concept, the hidden city.
Yes. The vision is a human-centered layer on the surface. Parks, walking paths, clean air, and then an underground layer where autonomous robots handle all the logistics, the deliveries, and the services.
The idea is to hide the machinery of the city underground so humans can actually enjoy the space above.
It's a beautiful idea, but you have to wonder, how does a car company pull this off? They aren't a software company. They aren't an aerospace company natively.
Well, here's a fact from the Francesco Calcara interview, the CEO of Hyundai Italy, that I think explains their hidden advantage. He pointed out something I'd completely forgotten. Hyundai produces its own steel.
Right. Hyundai Steel.
That is a crucial point for vertical integration. They control the supply chain from the raw iron ore all the way to the robot dog patrolling the factory floor.
That's incredible.
Most car companies buy their steel from suppliers. Hyundai is the supplier. It gives them a speed and cost advantage that almost no other automaker has right now.
So when they need a special alloy for that flying car, they don't have to call a vendor. They just call the other side of the building.
Precisely. It allows them to pivot so much faster.
Speaking of pivoting and speed, I want to zoom in on that interview with Francesco Calcara again, because he shared a story about AI and action that has nothing to do with driving, but everything to do with how nimble this company is becoming in their culture.
Ah, the commercial spot.
Yes. So usually filming a car commercial is a nightmare. Months of planning, big crews, closing down streets, renting helicopters, huge budgets.
And Calcara details an experiment they did in Italy. They created a TV commercial entirely with generative AI.
Listen to these stats from the source. They developed it in 3 weeks. The budget was under 100,000 euros, and the source material. They used just 234 photos of the car and only 4 photos of the actor.
That is incredible efficiency. Usually you need thousands of frames of raw footage.
4 photos, and they built a whole TV spot around it. That's where that quote from Calcara comes in. AI changing paradigms.
It shows that this tech giant mentality isn't just siloed in the R&D lab. It's in the marketing department too.
It connects back to that idea of being a smart mobility provider.
Yeah.
You have to be smart about how you operate internally, not just what you build.
Right. If you could use AI to slash your marketing costs by 80%, it's more money for the walking cars and the flying taxis. It's all connected.
Exactly. But for all these walking cars and flying taxis to actually work without crashing into each other, they need a brain, a really big brain.
Which brings us to section 4, the strategic nervous system. This is what they call the SDV, the software-defined vehicle.
SDV is a term that gets thrown around a lot lately. What does it actually mean in this context?
Think of the difference between an old flip phone and a modern smartphone. The old phone was hardware-defined. What you bought on day one was what you got forever. The smartphone is software-defined. It gets better with updates over time. Hyundai is turning the car into a smartphone.
And the Investor Day transcript highlights a few key AI technologies making this happen. There's mention of something called Atria AI.
Yes, Atria. This is fascinating. It allows for mapeless autonomous driving.
Mapeless. Wait, don't
Yeah.
self-driving cars need those super high-definition 3D maps to know exactly where the curb is?
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
And that's a huge limitation because if the map is outdated or there's construction, the car gets confused. Adria AI reads the road in real time like a human does. It understands the context without needing a pre-downloaded map of every inch of the city.
That makes the system infinitely more scalable to new cities.
It's a huge leap. And then there's Glio AI for voice interaction, so you can actually talk to the car naturally.
But the real innovation isn't just the software, it's how they build the hardware to run it. They mention the SDV factory.
This is the Singapore facility, right?
Yeah.
H&GICS.
Yes, the Innovation Center. Think of it as a giant laboratory. They are using robots to build robots. They test these new manufacturing methods. They're highly automated, AI-driven quality control, and then they cascade that tech to their massive global plants, like the expanded facility in Georgia in the U.S.
So Singapore is the prototype and Georgia is the mass production.
Exactly. And they aren't doing this alone. We mentioned Waymo earlier, but the ecosystem sources also list General Motors and NVIDIA as major partners.
The NVIDIA partnership feels absolutely critical here.
It is essential. You can't have a software-defined vehicle without a supercomputer on board. NVIDIA is providing that silicon brain.
And with GM. The sources say they are co-developing vehicles targeting 800,000 units.
That is all about scale. By sharing platforms with GM, they drive down the cost of the batteries and the chassis. It allows them to compete on price with the Chinese EV makers who are incredibly aggressive right now.
It's interesting. They compete with GM in the showroom, but they hold hands in the factory.
That's the reality of 2026.
Yeah.
You have to partner to win. And the financial muscle behind this is staggering. The sources cite a $26 billion commitment in the U.S. alone, and a total investment plan of over 77.3 trillion Korean won through 2030.
They are betting the farm.
They are. But when you look at the landscape with Tesla, the Chinese EV makers, and the tech giants, Hyundai realizes that staying a traditional car company is a slow death.
They have to evolve or they will perish.
So let's bring it all home.
Yeah.
Synthesize this. We've gone from robo-taxis in Vegas to walking cars in disaster zones to AI making commercials in Italy. What does this all mean for you listening?
I think the big takeaway here is that we are witnessing a legacy automaker shedding its skin. They are no longer just competing with Ford or Toyota. They are entering the ring with Google, with Amazon, with the biggest tech companies in the world.
They're building a world where the car is just one node in a massive network.
A network of flying, walking, and rolling robots. It's wild to think that the company that made the 1989 Excel is now doing this.
It raises an important question, though, and this is a provocative thought for you to explore on your own as we wrap up. If a vehicle can walk to your front door on robotic legs, if it can fly over traffic, and if it has an AI brain that creates its own commercials, at what point do we stop calling it a car?
That is the question that's going to keep me up tonight. Is it a car or is it a localized mobility pod?
Exactly. The definitions are dissolving. The form factor is changing to fit the function rather than us forcing our lives to fit into a sedan.
The future is definitely strange, but it's fascinating.
It really is. Now, before we sign off, I want to take a second to talk directly to you, the listener, spending your time with us right now.
Yes, absolutely.
We know there's an endless amount of content out there. You could be scrolling feeds, you could be skimming headlines, but you chose to spend this time with us diving deep into the actual source material, the transcripts, the press releases, the interviews.
In a world of information overload, choosing to actually understand the source material matters. That curiosity is what separates the people who just watch the future happen from the people who understand why it's happening.
Perfectly said. Thank you to you, our listeners, for trusting us with your time. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Stay curious.